Welcome to Positivity Hack Delivered with Women on IT, Hack the Future. My name is Beata, and today's PhD Positivity Hack Delivered will be by Gunnar Stefansson. As he describes himself, I am a bit of a nerd, a statistician interested in cryptocurrencies and education, and have been on the board of several companies. He was a guest 2 weeks ago, joined our Women on IT think tank panel discussing the impact of COVID on women globally and how we can change the ratio and enjoy equality on boards and throughout every aspect of our life. Thank you, Gunnar, for joining us today. Thank you very much for having a great discussion 2 weeks ago. I'm looking forward to this one because we are going to talk about education, about future of technology, future of women in tech, and hopefully we'll also cover a little bit about where you're coming from, which is a beautiful country. So Gunnar, can you just tell us where you are streaming from tonight?
Thank you for having me. So yes, I'm in Iceland at the moment. It's not quite spring here yet. You can still expect snow any day. My day job is at the University of Iceland, but most of my late career, the past 10 years, I've been working in educational technology and cryptocurrencies and similar. Yes, so I'm very happy to be here.
I'm excited as well, joining from Valletta, beautiful sunny day today. And I just wanted to hit it off with some of the statistics, and we have prepared some presentation to show how progressive Iceland is, because it's been put as a role model for many other countries. And we know that Katrín Jakobsdóttir, an Icelandic politician, is serving as a current prime minister since 2017. And women in Iceland generally enjoy good gender equality. As of 2018, 88% of working age women are employed. 65% of students attending university are female, and 41% of members of parliament are women. So, Gunnar, maybe too broad of a question, but how do you do that?
Well, you're right that these statistics are impressive, and certainly on paper, we are doing quite well. It's a mix of things. We are one of the Scandinavian countries. They tend to be quite high on these lists of equality and in various different aspects, both gender equality and also equality or equity in terms of the whole population. We've had a democracy for a long time. We've had women voting for a long time, and I think those are a part of it. The Scandinavia as a whole put quite a bit of effort into trying to correct some of the problems which existed back in the 70s. So that's when I was in school. There was a lot of talk about men as guys trying to learn how to cook and so forth. And this overall trend has been with us ever since. Now, but the statistics don't really tell the whole story because we're not done yet. We don't consider ourselves generally, I think, as paradise itself in terms of equality, because we regularly see something which sort of takes us and shakes us. This shouldn't be this way.
Mm.
I think I gave an example last week of the comparison, the reviews of applications to positions at the university. When you apply for a position, a faculty position at the university, you send in your resume, you may tell them what you want to do and so forth, send in other recommendations from other people or other faculties where you've been. And it turned out that in the review process itself, the reviewers used different descriptors to describe the qualities of the male and female applicants. And this was really quite a shock. I don't think any of us had expected this, you know, but of course that simply means that we do our best to improve on this. So we do things like we consistently always try to have at least 1 out of 3 panel members of each gender, depending on what department you're in. Sometimes you're looking for 1 male to join, sometimes 1 female. And the other part is, you know, we see this also among teenagers and those going into science and technology. The situation has improved quite a bit, going from almost exclusively males, for example, in mathematics when I was there, to you know, much higher proportions of females now. And this is basically work. You know, you've got to think about this. You've got to do something. So you see a disproportionate you know, a highly skewed proportion of males in some subjects or other, and you decide we've just got to do something about this. And you go out and see what can be done, and then do it. And I think most people agree that it's appropriate to try to fix these things.
Fantastic. Gunnar, we might have a problem with the headset you're on. So maybe while you're maybe checking the headset or maybe changing it, because it's a bit teeny voice over, I just wanted to bring the story of 1975 when the women in Iceland decided to strike. On Friday, October 24th, women left their formal and informal work at 2:05. The time at which they would have earned their day's wage, they had been paid at the same wage average rate as men. The scale of the event was very large, involving 25,000 women in a country with just 220 inhabitants. In Reykjavik, almost 90% of women participate. Now, Gunnar, I don't expect you to remember that. We are very young. We are not going to admit how old we were. How was bringing up? How did bringing up by your mother impact your vision, your perspective, your mindset? Do you think there was a role? Oh. We have muted. Problem?
In my case, my family is a little bit unusual.
Yes.
My father was a researcher. He had a PhD in genetics.
Yes.
And, my father was from Norway. So she was an immigrant to Iceland, if you like. Then my father went to Scotland to study when I was just 12 years old. And this whole thing about being brought up in part in Scotland and having a Norwegian mother, Icelandic father, I think this sort of changes your perspective when you grow up with this, and you feel it's natural throughout to see different cultures and such. In our case also, there are 5 of us brothers. We're all brothers, five siblings, which means that my mother has descendants from most of the races on the planet. One of my brothers is married from a woman of Indian origin, another from a Japanese origin, a third is a Catholic American, and so on. So we're sort of all over the place. Our son is married to a woman of Dutch nationality, but her ancestry lies in Cape. So you know, we from everywhere, and family gatherings can be quite interesting. I think this does color our views of the world in this particular family. You know, we do our best to see different people for what they are, not through our preconceived ideas. Although that's always difficult. We always tend to you know, have some idea about what the world is like until you actually get there and see that no, it's actually very
fantastic. And we actually have got a first comment. Thank you so much. This is the Digital Virtual School. Glad to report that we are implementing EIAS Tutor Web in the following countries in Kenya: Nairobi, Kainado, Moyale, under development, Embu and Meru countries. Others lined up to join. Wow, that's fantastic. This is the perfect segue to let you tell us about your Tutor Web project, Gunnar.
Okay, so 20 years ago, I moved from the Marine Research Institute into the University of Iceland. I started teaching courses with 80 to 100 students, and it quickly became obvious that they were certainly not all there to study. So they would hand in homework, which was exactly the same, and it was wrong. So they were all missing the same 1/2 formula for maybe 5 or 10 individually supposed solved homeworks. So the idea then appeared that maybe we could do something like set up a web page where people would solve their problems and check boxes, that they would get different exercises. So they'd be selected at random, and that became later on the Tutor Web. So the Tutor Web has been in development for about 20 years. We changed it and modify it a little bit every year. Then later on, I reached out to several different countries to see whether we could get some cooperation in one form or another. And I sent, you know, emails left, right, and center to all sorts of different places. And in the end, the responses we got, they were all from developing countries. They were all from low-income regions, where people said, yes, we need something like this. We don't have anything like this here. Our students need textbooks and so on, and our teachers don't know the material well enough that they're teaching. So then the problem is it couldn't be a simple cooperation, because, you know, we were developing this, and the capacity, there was some capacity building that needed to be done on the other side in most cases. So for an extremely stroke of good luck, I was sitting at a conference with a guy called David Stern back in, must have been 2014 or so, or actually 2012. And he was working in Kenya. He was working at Maseno University at the time, and so we set up a cooperation. And from that, you know, we tested different ways of using the Tutor Web in Kenya. Our colleagues there, they ended up telling us to, you know, try this on Takawiri Island. Takawiri Island then is an island in Lake Victoria. Most of the houses do not have electricity. There's no internet. There's very poor telephone coverage. And we asked them, should we try Takawiri Island? And they said, because if it works in Takawiri Island, it will work anywhere in Kenya. And that was kind of funny. But that's what started the whole thing. And yes, it did work in Takawiri Island. And we went from there and to different places. We've been inside the maximum security prison in Kenya. We've been in secondary schools, primary schools, universities, and so forth. But then came COVID, and we had to change the whole strategy. So we're doing totally different things now. And that's what you saw popping up on the screen earlier. Those are references to what we're doing right now in Kenya and under the current restrictions associated with COVID.
Fantastic, Gunnar. I have to say that I couldn't agree more with Agata Bellon. So inspiring, hacking the future across continents. Gunnar rocks. So Gunnar, how do you do that? And this is actually lines up with In Love, in Pain, they are asking you. Hi Gunnar, what pushed you to create Smileycoin? What is the connection between the Smileycoin and TutorWeb, and maybe you could explain a little bit more, because we know that TutorWeb doesn't work when you don't have electricity. You not necessarily have internet. That's another facet that is quite challenging. Can you tell us a little bit about TutorWeb, Smileycoin? What's the connection there?
Yeah, okay. So, well, first of all, to take the electricity part, when we go to these remote regions with no electricity or very unstable electricity, we have a small server. It's just a little box, and it runs off a battery. So you just need occasional electricity, and then the server will set up everything needed for tablet computers in the classroom. So you can work in places with unstable electricity and no internet. But at some stage or other, and that must have been again 2012, 2013 or so, we thought to ourselves, there are two things. Number one, can we reward students with something other than just grades? And then secondly, can we do something in terms of getting people interested in studying, or making it more feasible? So there are many families in Kenya, for example, which survive on $1 a day in terms of monetary income. So you then have to ask yourself, is it possible to pay a student $1 a day for studying? The answer is yeah, sort of. Now we could have tried to use Bitcoin, but we didn't have the hundreds of thousands of dollars needed to do that. So we came up with our own cryptocurrency. So you can think of it as a token. You earn some tokens when you study in the TutorWeb, but you can also use it outside the system because it is a cryptocurrency. So you can decide outside of the classroom, I'm going to sell you juice or some other tokens, or I'm looking at a tomato plant in the window. I could sell you a tomato plant for Smileycoins. Because it isn't particularly tied to the system, other than the TutorWeb has a stash of Smileycoins, so it can reward you for your studying. So and this now during COVID, we had to do something because the schools were closed. We had a grant from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to support students in Kenya. So after a few rounds of discussions, we decided to look at community libraries in Kenya because they have stayed open. So using our grant, we then are able to buy some tablets, give them to the library. And the libraries that we've chosen, they're all in the Nairobi area, so they have a wireless connection. They have some internet. And that means that they can use a Smileycoin because the blockchain for the cryptocurrencies is on the internet, so you need an internet connection. Now, to differentiate this, to take this as far forward as possible, we decided to allow the students to buy the tablets if they could earn enough Smileycoins. And this is completely new. This we thought was a nifty concept, but we had no idea whether it would actually work or not. And as it turned out, initially it took a long time. It took 2 months for the students to get the hang of this. But in the past month, we've seen a tremendous increase where students are really studying, through and working out math problems throughout the day to earn their 1 minute, their 1 million Smiley needed to buy the tablet. I think it's phenomenal. It means that you have a reward mechanism which the students think is important. They want this, and they're willing to work really hard to get to their end goal.
So give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. But I actually think Smileycoin is like giving them a fishing rod, isn't it? Because you're not only motivating them to really excel at maths, because it's not easy to get a coin just by turning up at school, right? Can you explain a little bit? And actually, you prepared a little nifty graphic to go with it. Can you explain our viewers how does it work? And what blockchain is it on? Marianne is working here hard to put the little graphic. Yes. Okay.
So this first one, this is a what's called in cryptocurrencies a web wallet. So a cryptocurrency, the way it works, if you just take a 2-minute introduction to the basics. If I have some Smileycoins which I've earned somehow one way or another, and I want to send them to you, what I do is I will then have one of these wallets, since I have the cryptocurrency, and you will need to get one. And the easiest way to get one is to go on to that website that's listed at the top, and it will automatically give you a new Smileycoin wallet in this case. And I can then send you some smileys. You'll see that particular wallet had 2,409 smileys when this screenshot was taken. I can send you 1,000 smileys, and what that makes is a transaction. The transaction says, I no longer own these 1,000 smileys, I'm sending them over to you. And that gets recorded in the blockchain. And that's all the blockchain is. It's just a ledger of these transactions. And now here's the interesting one. This is a picture of the library model, the one I was describing earlier. The students in the center, they go to a library. They can initially borrow a tablet computer. They can access the tutor web and answer math drills, or they can go to the internet in general and do other stuff. But what we're rewarding them for is primarily math drills. Now, the tutor web happens to have a lot of smileys because it applies for grants from a fund which is called the Smileycoin Fund. And the Smileycoin Fund exists exactly for these kinds of things. And then the students get rewards, and by the time by the time they get 1 million smileys, they can send us over to the Smiley charity, and the library will give them the tablet, and the Smiley charity will come up with new tablets for the library. So this is the way this whole system is set up. And there are all sorts of questions which come up when you look at this, and I would love to discuss this. I could discuss this for hours.
For hours, I'm sure. We have also a little picture, a document to document your work. Marianne is going to show us a picture of the library. So that's the bananas you can buy with your Smileycoins. And we have got actually Formal Foundation asking us a question. Is the idea behind Smileycoin to reward students for good work? And how do these rewards work?
Yeah. So that was the original idea, and the fundamental reason for coming up with Smileycoins was to reward students for studying in the tutor web system. And so it's not just like taking an exam and getting Smileycoins if you pass the exam. That's not the thinking here. The thinking is that, and the design of the tutor web is for studying, for learning. So you can continue for as long as you like until you actually know the material. And as you learn, your grade goes up a little bit. And if you keep on going long enough, I claim that anybody can eventually, study to perfection. That's once you take a particular drill set, study that until you get a 97.5% grade on that particular part. That's when you get your Smileycoin. You get Fantastic. A little bit earlier, and this foodstuffs. You will see that since we made an arrangement with the libraries that they would sell these things for smileys, in some cases we're talking about people who have very, very, very little income. So we as a side step, we actually pay these students a minimal universal basic income in smileys, because we cannot say you will only get food to eat if you study hard. And that wouldn't go very far. So instead we pay them all a little bit. They can use that to buy a banana, or you see there are airtime cards there, or And there are also sanitary pads. And I'm really proud of the sanitary pads, because that's something we would not have thought of from Iceland, that sanitary pads were a major issue, but they are. And so this is another step towards getting girls to come in and study.
Fantastic. Well, thinking about the sanitary pads, the female issues, and we covered it a little bit last time, and thank you very much for your question, Formal Foundation, and your great topic that you can imagine bringing your teacher with a bribing your teacher with a Smileycoin. I'm not sure it's going to be used this way, although we know that blockchain or Bitcoin or cryptocurrency has been used in various ways, not necessarily legitimate, which comes to another question. What blockchain is it based on, Smileycoin?
Sorry, what?
Where is Smileycoin based on?
Oh, Smileycoin has its own blockchain.
Okay.
So it's just like Bitcoin or Litecoin, or not Ethereum, Bitcoin or Litecoin or Dogecoin or Aurora coin. So these various coins that started the whole process. Smileycoin is just like them, except it has a few features which the others don't. I mean, all of them are designed for some purpose. So we've been putting more of an emphasis on education and on charity as well. So the first slide the first graphic that you had up there had two panels. I only talked about the wallet itself. The side panel had a list of charities which you could donate to. So we're setting that up as sort of a special use case for the Smileycoin, that it can be used for anybody anywhere to donate to charity.
Fantastic.
And one of the things is students here, they always ask, what can I use this for? And we've set up a few different things, and for them to use Smileys on, they always want more, and we're then going to say, look, there's 100 charities here that you can donate to.
So Formal Foundation is actually asking a follow-up question. So in theory, does this mean that students could save up and cash out once graduated if, for instance, the education system invested? So I'm actually thinking about what you told me last time about Smileycoin. It started at a very low rate and now it raised in value. So can you ask this question? Formal Foundation is asking us.
Yeah, I mean, as far as we're concerned, whenever the students get Smileys, it's their Smileys, and whenever they can redeem them, is what we call it, redeem them from the tutor web, they put it into their own wallets. They can decide to buy bananas for it, or they can buy a tablet computer for it if they have enough for that, or they can just keep it. That's fine, and so on. So yeah, they can do anything they like with it. There's like all cryptocurrencies, they have limited usage, and really the correct word. But you can't buy anything. You can't walk into a general store and use Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is by far the best known cryptocurrency of them all. And of course, the same goes for Smileycoin. So you can't pay your tuition with Smileys at most schools because they have no idea what you're talking about if you tell them you want to pay with Smileycoin. But yes, you can keep them. You could then, in principle, sell them at an exchange, for example. But for that to generally work and to be, for anyone at any time to come in and say, I want to cash out 100,000 euros in Smileys, we actually need a lot more people to be buying and selling Smileys on the cryptocurrency markets. But that's a bit of another topic.
Fantastic. Dear viewers, listeners, you're more than welcome to support Smileycoin's project, which is Education in a Suitcase. You can check their Patreon site, and the links are provided for you. And we have got an excellent question from Erms M. Hi, Gunnar. I have a question, it's a tricky one. How blockchain crypto could impact education? What does the education hold for blockchain and crypto? Okay.
First of all, I think I think blockchain will make an entry into education everywhere. I think we will be studying the use of blockchain as a routine topic in various universities and courses around the world. I run a course on blockchain at the University of Iceland. There are courses at very many universities around the world. What I do, and what I think a lot of instructors do, is not just to show people this is how you can, buy Bitcoin or sell Smileycoin or and so forth. No, you teach them the core of it and how you can expand it to new features. So, and that's important because there are so many things which you can do with the blockchain and with the cryptocurrencies in general that you would never imagine this when somebody simply says this is internet money, because it is so much more than that. So you can send messages with this. You can use this to sell on the blockchain. You can sell book chapters and all sorts of other things that you can do directly on the blockchain. You can make very complicated contracts on regular blockchains. You can also use specialized smart contract software like that which is running on the Ethereum blockchain. But you can also do this with a regular old Bitcoin blockchain or Smileycoin blockchain for that matter. And we've been experimenting with that quite a bit. I think also you will see that people will be signing more and more things using blockchains, registering data into the blockchain to prove that things were done at a certain time. When we set up the Smileycoin fund, for example, all of the partners which sit on the board of the fund, which is the University of Iceland, the Smileycoin charity, Smiley charity, and two other organizations, we signed a formal piece of paper, but we then scanned it and we put the contract onto the blockchain as well as a proof of concept, and we all signed it digitally. So I think you will see a lot of these things, more and more of these things as we move forward. The other thing is, one thing Andres Antonopoulos has said is that these will proliferate everywhere. And when little Alice is going to sell her lemon juice, she's going to set up her own little cryptocurrency that people use for their lemonade. And he may not be that far off. I think this is a great idea that you can use these things as token. You used to use tokens as kids anyway. You can make paper money, cut it out, and use that. You can use cryptocurrencies just as easily instead today. So I think this is really nifty stuff. You can use this for all sorts of things.
Fantastic. I'm really touched to have you on the show, and we see lots of discussion, and Jeremy Mark is actually saying blockchain can change many aspects of life. Smileycoin can make change in the world in regards to education. I couldn't agree more. And Gunnar, I wanted to ask you one thing. What keeps you going like that? Because you could do your 9-to-5 job, you could just go and sign in and sign off and not really bothered. Why do you think it's important to do more than is required?
It's so much fun. It's just so much fun. Look, I spent I spent my years at university studying mathematics and statistics and computers. I then graduated and went to work in marine research and modeling of the marine ecosystems and giving advice to governments on how to utilize their fish resources. And then I went to university and started teaching, and I always felt that teaching was much more important than the giving advice on natural resources. I mean, they're still important. But this project, linking together education, cryptocurrencies, and doing this in libraries, community libraries in Kenya, this is more fun than anything I've ever seen before.
Which brings me another facet of your life. You famously, when you visited Kenya, you decided just to knock on the door of a local prison. Can you tell us a story about that?
Yeah, it all started when I was at a conference again with David and met people from the African Match Initiative, and Maseno University. And David is saying goodbye to somebody. He was really the only one I knew at the time. He's saying goodbye to somebody and turns around to me and says, have you met Evelyn? She works in education in a prison. And I turned around and jumped and said, wait, we need to talk. Because we had tried to use TutorWeb in a prison here in Iceland, and it had worked really very well. The prisoners were allowed to use the internet under supervision, and then they could go offline to their cells and continue studying, having downloaded the drills. So they were able to study, take one of my math courses in prison without ever coming to school and only occasionally going online. So I started talking to Evelyn, and we decided to set up a project. We went back and forth to Kenya a few times in conjunction with the other work in the schools. And in the end, we established a sort of repertoire with a prison in Naivasha, maximum security prison. And that's where we found ourselves a year or two later, standing on the outside of a massive door to a maximum security prison in Kenya, knocking on this thick wooden door and not having any idea what was on the other side. And that was really quite an experience. But we were allowed to come in, and as you can see, we were also allowed to leave. That was an experience totally different from anything else. Being inside a prison with the inmates who were most of them were there for life, but they wanted to do something useful with their life in prison. So they were trying to study. They were mostly trying to take, or the ones we talked to were doing secondary school or high school, and we gave tablets to the group and a server to the prison, so that they were able to access better material. In other words, they got access to not just our math drills, but also to things like Wikipedia, which you had on the server, and Gutenberg library, and so forth. There's something to be, you can't really describe this in words.
See a need, feel a need. And speaking of which, I actually remember that today's show, I wanted to also mention our very good friend of Women on IT. Justine has just started raising up money for her charity, which is trying to help 300 orphaned children to get them some educational material. So that's an opportunity for you, Gunnar. I hope after this show, I'm going to send an email with the intro. Hopefully there will be another opportunity. Maybe you will open education in a suitcase in Uganda. Which actually brings us a segue into the next topic I wanted to talk about, which is, we talked about education, how is blockchain coming into it, and maybe if you could tell us, what do you see as an emerging technology in education? What are you touched by apart from blockchain? Is there something that you see as has a great potential in education?
Well, there have been amazing changes around the world, just looking at everything that is available online and on the internet. You hear quite a bit now from the users, from students who will, or not students, or from young people, who will tell you that they just started a job, they didn't have a degree, but they worked everything out just themselves by studying online. And they might take some courses, or they might simply be looking up information. I think one of our challenges that work in the school system is to somehow or other respond to this, because obviously it is true that all of this information is available online, but it's not very structured, and we need to show students, show young people that there is still a reason for have motivation to go to school and get a formal education, at least in very many cases. So I think that's one of the greatest challenges. It's also and to me, it is totally amazing. I mean, I can sit down at my computer and I can take a course in social science, blockchain, mathematics, whatever I like, from universities around the world, from high-class faculty. And we have a course that we teach here, or a colleague of mine teaches here, which is based only on videos from the best people in that subject in the world. And then the instructors here, what they do is they assist the students in understanding it and giving them their own local exercises based on their own data or data our instructor provides. But all of the content is from the authors of the textbooks in that particular field. So you already have the best lectures in the world. Why would you want to try to do your own, which wouldn't be as good? So I think we're seeing a tremendous, we're seeing leaps and jumps in education because of the internet itself. And I think we will see, things that we cannot even dream of today. We will see registrations using blockchain. We will see your grades distributed on blockchain and proof of identity on the blockchain. We will see all sorts of new things like that. But the biggest component of this, I think, is the availability of material on the internet. So, so schools will have to figure out, why do they need to exist still? And it has to be because they're able to structure this material better than the individual could do themselves.
That's fascinating, and I couldn't agree more with you. We are all suffering Zoom fatigue. I hope you're not suffering live stream fatigue and you're still here and you've got another more than 15 minutes to ask a question to our esteemed guest, Gunnar. I wanted to ask you how do you keep up with technology, Gunnar? Because we've seen so many movements, and this is the next emerging tech, and this is the future. How do you keep up with all the media about technology?
Well, this is why it's so much fun being at the university. There is no comparison. I am part-time retired now, but even while I was full-time at the university, I was pretty much allowed to do whatever research I wanted. And this is amazing. I mean, who gets to do this? Professors at universities. They're the ones who get to do this, or faculty at universities. And it's an amazing opportunity. If I want to do something new, I don't want to do the theoretical statistics or applied statistics. I want to move into blockchain technology. I can do that. There's no demand by my employer regarding what kind of research I do. And I think this is fantastic. And this is what has always kept me going, is my employers allowing me to be a little bit crazy.
That's fantastic. So you're allowing yourself to be a little bit crazy. I'm going to ask you, do you have a TikTok account?
I do, but I don't use it very much.
Fantastic! It's another booming technology that is taking the kids all over the world. I can actually see outside kids playing and doing another TikTok video. So speaking about the problem solving or approaching problem solving, what is your strategy for problem solving, Gunnar? If you could share us some insights with us.
Well, I mean, I think that's the same as with everybody else. You look at the done thing and say, well, this is easy, I can just do this. Or you see other grant options, or can you find an investor, or can you do this, that, and the other. You just go down the checklist. The important part is to make the checklist and see what can I try. And then, of course, there are math problems. You address them somewhat differently. But that's it's sort of the same thing. I mean, you try everything in the book, and then you try to invent your own ways forward. If you feel that the problem is important enough, there's usually a way to move forward a little bit. And I think it's important to be positive. So, you know, in other words, perfection isn't always needed. You need to do something, you want to move things a little bit forward. Steve Jobs had this nice phrase. He said at the end of some meeting, apparently, that they were going to make a dent in the universe. And it doesn't mean that you have to create paradise. It just means you want to change things a little bit, but enough to be noticed. And you know, being positive about it is important. You're trying to come up with a positive change, but you don't need to do everything at once. And the same thing when you stand up and you say, well, that went totally differently from the way I wanted it to go. If you're able to sort of, you know, lean back and say, okay, did I learn something from it? Then the answer is usually yes. It didn't go as planned. It didn't work. It failed completely. But you now understand why it failed and what you need to do next. So I think this general attitude of and way of working is essential. It's the same as if a faculty or researcher sends a paper in for peer review, which is done in academia. And you sometimes get them with horrible reviews. It's all wrong. The reviewer completely misunderstood where you were going, and you get this horrible review telling you that the paper is disgusting. They've never seen anything as bad. Well, they don't quite say that, but almost. And what you need to do is you need to take a very, very deep breath, maybe put the whole thing into a drawer for 3 weeks. But when you get back to it, you need to say, what can I do? What can I do to change this paper to make it pass this reviewer? And if you do that, you end up with a much better paper, because the fact that he misunderstood it means that you can also write it better. You can improve it until that stupid little reviewer actually understands you.
Yes, definitely actionable points is what is required. And the mantra of activism says that the only way to change things is do something about it. So, which brings me back to the glass ceiling topic, which we talked about at the beginning. And we know that Iceland has got is presented as a model country, and we can see here it is the 100 best points for the glass ceiling for working women. And I am actually thinking about, you know, we can all dwindle about what is injustices we face, but we come back to this point of raising and speaking up about women going out of the work because they wanted to change the dynamic. The typist, which was solely women's job, all of a sudden there was no newspapers printed the next day after the women raising a strike. So they achieved their intended goal, basically shutting down Iceland for the day. Men referred to this day as the Long Friday. And first, that was the first step for women's emancipation in Iceland. That was the words of the first female president of Iceland. And I am thinking about the topic that we discussed over and over with many of my speakers and also with our community, which was the topic of fear. So what do you fear the most, and how do you embrace that fear?
Yeah, you mean fear in terms of addressing something or starting a project which you feel unsure about?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think I said last time also that I'm not really, you know, I'm an old white guy. I'm not really the right person to tell women what they should do. Everybody has this feeling at times that they don't know what they're doing. Everybody has this feeling that they're in a room with a lot of very smart people and they're the only one who doesn't know what they're doing. and you know, this important is well known. It has a name, but it is important to try anyway. You know, try your hand at new things and go places where you wouldn't normally dare go. In my case, you know, my favorite example is being afraid of heights. You're walking on a cliff somewhere, and when your knees start shaking, you don't go any further. You stop, but only until your knees stop shaking, and then you keep on going. So, and the same thing applies to, you know, if you're a woman, you're interested in engineering. You're worried you can't make it because all of these people around you are these smart male engineering nerds. There's nobody that's going to say that you can't do this. You know, we need many more women in these male-dominated fields. And all the examples I've seen, the women are just as capable of doing this as the guys. I've had 10 PhD students graduate. Exactly half of them are women, and I certainly have no regrets about this. They've all been outstanding in both in their studies and in their subsequent careers. They've been, you know, winning awards for achievement in teaching or research around the world. So anything a guy can do, the woman can just as well do.
Fantastic.
I was once in a room with a bunch of lawyers, and they were all talking about how they couldn't cook. And I told you earlier that, you know, when I was growing up, there was a serious attempt for guys to participate in domestic chores in Iceland. And I was looking at these people and saying, you know, how can you simply sit there and accept as a fact that you cannot do something which half of the population on the planet does? Come on, it makes no sense. And I say exactly the same thing to women. There's no reason why you should think that what half of the population on the planet can do, that you cannot.
Exactly, and we have a great comment from Agatha Bellon. With the support of great men like Gunnar, we can break that glass ceiling everywhere. In Smileycoins, we trust while educating our sister from a suitcase across the world over. That's a great topic to wrap it up. And we have 5 minutes left. So Gunnar, I always, because there is no more questions, if you have your question, this is your last opportunity. And because before we wrap it up, I would like to ask a question that is more a challenge of what would you do if the lockdown was over, COVID was over, and can you imagine yourself somewhere in the world having a breakfast with somebody? Who would it be, and where would you have that breakfast to have this eye-to-eye discussion?
Yes. Yeah. You know, we've actually been watching this show or series about the Ritz Hotel in London, and that is quite an impressive place, and it would be fun to go there. But when I thought about this a little bit more, my all-time favorite breakfasts are actually in various places in Africa. And if you see a breakfast table laden with all the different foods of Africa, there's nothing quite like it. So that would be my favorite. Would be to be in a nice hotel, and it could be either, you know, Cape Town or Nairobi. And if I had a single guest I could invite, it would actually be my wife.
Fantastic. That's a very good answer. Why would you invite your wife? Can't you have eye-to-eye on a daily basis?
Well, that's my idea of a perfect breakfast. But you know, there are all sorts of things, all sorts of people you would like to meet also. But you asked for the perfect private breakfast. That would be mine.
Fantastic answer, Gunnar. I hope your wife is watching us. She's also got quite an amazing career. Can you tell us a little bit about her?
So she started out. We're actually high school classmates. So we met in high school and went on to university in Iceland. She did economics. And then after we graduated from the University of Iceland, we went to the United States, where she did a master's degree in economics. And she then worked at the National Bank of Iceland. Oh, sorry, the bank, Icelandic Bank, and Landsbanki, and worked there for over 20 years, and went on to the stock exchange. Which was originally a local Icelandic stock exchange and then got bought by a Scandinavian stock exchange, which subsequently got bought by NASDAQ. So she worked at NASDAQ for a few years until she retired a few months ago, 6, 7, 8 months ago. And we met you and Patrick in Malta a few years ago because she was at a conference related to stock exchanges, if I remember correctly.
That's exactly what happened, and I was really surprised to have a power woman that was dragging her husband behind, and for a change, that was quite a revelation to me, because usually it happens the other way around. So we met with Christine there, and we talked about education in a suitcase, which is, I'm very glad that it's flourishing now. I wanted to come back to the Smileycoins. I'm not sure what was the value, the initial value, and what is the value now, Gunnar?
Okay, so initially when we went or started and registered this on an exchange, I remember that the prices were several thousand smileys to 1 krona. And today, so about 4,000 smileys to 1 krona. And when I checked a few days ago, it was about 50 smileys to 1 krona. So, you know, that price had gone up from 4,000 to a krona to 50 to a krona. And that's and if you measure it in terms of dollars, there are just so many zeros, and it's 0.000 something $1.
As is the case with cryptocurrencies today, but if you hold your wallet, you may discover that it's going to be not just for 1 million smileys. You may afford not just a tablet, might be something else, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We started this Kenyan project in November and decided to sell a tablet for 1 million smileys. And you know, if you look at the picture we had earlier, there's just a flow from the Smileycoin fund to the student, to the tutor web to the student, back to the Smiley charity. And since we're not selling them, this doesn't affect the market. So in principle, you could have priced at anything. But basically, this means that 10,000 smileys in that or 1 million smileys, sorry, 1 million smileys is priced at about $100. These tablets cost about $100. So there is an underlying price there. But when we started this, the actual price of Smileycoin was quite a bit lower than that. So the students were getting the tablets for much less than if they had bought the smileys off a market. But then we had an explosion in Smileycoin, like as has happened with other cryptocurrencies recently. So that the students actually, you know, they would have to pay more for the smileys on the market today to buy those same tablets than it would cost them in dollars. So we're just sticking to 1 million, since it's you know, in that particular system, it doesn't involve the market itself.
Well, we had a non-fungible token question somewhere in before. I'm just wondering, just a brief word from you. What do you see the future of NFT?
Oh, that's a difficult one. That's now you're actually putting this all down spot. I'm not sure, to be honest. If you recall, a few years ago, there was something called CryptoKitty.
Yes.
And so everybody was buying crypto kitties, and you know, a crypto kitten would go for thousands of dollars, and you sort of wonder, you know, what's the point of this? You know, where is this going to go? And the entire blockchain for Ethereum went on its side for a while because everybody was buying and selling crypto kitties. I'm not sure about the NFTs in education, but I mean, I think they're here to stay. You buy something and you can prove your ownership of it. I can think of this in you know, being my simple-minded self, in other ways where you can buy, for example, a book chapter. You send Smileys or Bitcoin to a specific address, and it automatically sends you the next chapter in your book. And it's these kinds of things I think will be you know, you will see them everywhere. I think also we've talked about this a little bit for Smileycoin, that it would be fun to be able to record grades in a sort of encrypted way on the blockchain. So that, for example, if you're doing this in a tutor web, the tutor web could send you Smileys with an encrypted transaction demonstrating that, yes, you have now aced this particular part of the content, the education material. And it's related to the same thing. You know, it's a question of putting new things on the blockchain. And to me, this is natural. There are other people, particularly in the traditional Bitcoin world, who do not want to put new things on the blockchain, but I'm all for it. I think we should be doing research and development exactly along these lines, trying all sorts of different things.
Thank you so much, Gunnar. That's been a fabulous show. We reached the end of the hour. Thank you very much, our community, valuable digital virtual school. I presume it's some of your followers. Agata Bellon, in love and in pain for my education. Ernzem, Jeremy, Mark, Ian O. Thank you very much, Gunnar. It's been a pleasure. I hope that dinner or breakfast with your wife somewhere in Africa, provided not at too high steep whatever mountain, it's going to happen soon. And we wish you a great success, Gunnar, with your education in a suitcase. Dear community, you're more than welcome to support education in a suitcase, Smileys, tutor web. Please check our links provided, and I wish you a great success. Women on IT hack the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.